Hi, my name is Teri, and I'm with the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority. So today I thought I would take you on a fun little tour of the open space properties and how open space can help you with your sense of peace. October is Mental Health Awareness Month. So to honor that, we would like to celebrate showing people how we use nature to relax. I'm going to share my screen now and I will go through a little PowerPoint with you and things like that. So when I first heard about open space, I actually thought about this. Open space. But I soon found out, wait a minute, that's not the open space we're talking about. We're talking about this one. Welcome to the Santa Clara Valley. So this is actually a view of Coyote Valley. And if you look down in here, you can see it in the wintertime. Look at all that water and the green and the snow in the hills. It's absolutely beautiful. And one of the things that's really wonderful about nature is that it does help us feel calm. And all of this greenery that you're looking at right here is actually helping your lungs because plants help to absorb air pollution and they put out oxygen for us. So going for a walk outside actually helps you in a couple ways. It helps you get exercise, it helps you circulate your blood, through your body, which helps. And it also provides fresh oxygen and vitamin D. Now, then when they tell you that it's time to go outside, you're probably like me, and this is how you look. But don't you worry. Don't you worry one bit about that because we will take good care of you and you actually can come out to the preserves in a safe way. What? Are you sure? Yes, actually, we are sure. So, what we've done is we have set up special protocols to help keep you safe so that you can have a good experience while you're out there in our preserves and feel like you don't have to be stressed. The mission of the Open Space Authority, in case you didn't know, is that the Open Space Authority conserves the natural environment, supports agriculture, which makes us different from other open space districts, and we connect people to nature by protecting open spaces, natural areas, and working farms and ranches for future generations. We are in the business of forever, and we want to help people be healthy. So taking care of this land is actually taking care of our own future at the same time. And I want you to know that we're here for you. As soon as COVID hit, we didn't close our preserves, we kept them open. And right away, we set up one-way trail systems and things like that so that you could come and go for a walk and get out of the house. But most importantly, not be afraid that you're going to be too close to other people or that people who would be walking towards you and you might be face to face with somebody you don't know. So we do encourage everybody to wear their masks and use hand sanitizer, and we've set up all of our trails and everything so that you'll feel safe when you're out there. And they even went so far as to get rid of any gates you might have to open. So they put these really nifty little, I call it like a little maze. It's really just a zigzag so that the cows, when they look at it, they don't realize that if they actually did walk the little zigzag, they could get out. They don't see that. To them, it's a straight surface. So you can go into the preserves without having to touch a gate. And it's really important to us that you feel comfortable and happy and that you get the benefits of being outside. And that's why all of our staff has been very dedicated to keeping the preserves open and staffed so that you can do that. Now, people tend to look far and wide. Where do you find open space? What is this, right? Well, here's a map of our jurisdiction just to give you an idea. So some of the elements that you can see actually belong to our older sister, Mid-Peninsula Open Space. So if you're looking at the Mount Umunum and things like that, that's actually the other open space. So we are Santa Clara Valley Open Space, and we're about 20 years younger than Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space. And if you look at this map here, you can see the orange parts. Those are the properties that we have. And we are in the process of updating this map because we have new properties that we just recently have acquired the use of. We're going to be maintaining them and restoring these new properties. But one of the things that you'll notice is if you look at this is that almost all of our properties touch other green spaces. So those green spaces are actually other park agencies. So what we're trying to do is to extend the network where there are wild lands, for wildlife to cross, and then also to preserve all of those plants and animals and keep them as healthy as we possibly can so that they will do their job, which is to restore the environment and clean the air, and which in turn helps us in the long run. This is one of the nicest parks I think that you can see. I'm impartial to lots of them, but this is the Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve. So the one that I showed you in the beginning is actually the North Coyote Valley. This is just a little bit further south, just a little bit, just like four little street exits. But this is the view from up on the hill. And this park is beautiful. It used to be a Native American village site and and everything. So if you look out at these old oak trees, you can come to this preserve and you can feel the history here. You can feel, the people that used to live here and the way this land has changed over time. So we were very lucky to get this space because some folks had bought it and they were going to build homes. And then the bottom fell out of the .com industry and they weren't able to do it. And so eventually it came into the hands of the Open Space Authority. And we've been very carefully restoring this land and trying to remove all of the invasive species of plants. And by that, I mean plants that are considered weeds that are not supposed to be there, that were not there traditionally. So we're trying to put it back to its healthiest state, and that's why it's one of the best places for you to go walk. So you can see this trail here to the left, and we've set up a one-way trail system so that you can go for a walk. But don't worry if you're like me and you've been home a lot and you don't think that you're up to like a 4-mile hike. You don't have to do that. It's like you can go as far as you feel comfortable. And if during your walk you decide, okay, I'm kind of tired, I have to save some energy to get back to the car, it is okay to turn around. Don't feel like you have to do the whole thing. But the whole first part of this is flat. And it goes around this little valley here. And out there in the trees, especially starting this time of year, we get burrowing owls. So you might actually get to see a burrowing owl in the ground out here, or you might get to see a coyote, and there's lots of birds. So as you're walking, you can breathe in the fresh air, you can look at the sights, you can feel the history, and hopefully this will help you start to feel more relaxed and at peace. One of the first things that you'll see when you come to this property is actually, this is the view from the parking lot. How cool is that? Look at this old oak tree. This old oak tree has been here for probably, almost 100 years, if not more. And these rocks right behind it, they have a lot of history too. And one time, we even have critters living in these. And one time we even had a volunteer that did a program. And after the program was over, he was looking at this hill and he just kind of got a funny feeling, so he took a picture of it. And when he zoomed in, he actually saw a badger looking at him from the rocks. But he didn't see that with his naked eye. So that was really exciting. And, there's a lot of cultural history in this area too. If you look up in the tree right there, you can see a little green clump. So that's actually mistletoe. And I was wondering if you knew why mistletoe is used. You're supposed to kiss people under the mistletoe and it's all smoochy in the holiday times. Well, it actually turns out that comes from an ancient Norse myth, about the gods, or a story about the Norse gods. So a lot of folks have seen the Marvel movies and, Loki and Thor and all of them. So this story does involve Loki. And what happened was there was a goddess and her name was Freya. And she was the goddess of spring, the goddess of beauty, all of this, right? And she got pregnant and she was going to have a child. And there was a prophecy that said that you're going to have a son and his brother will kill him. So she was terrified of this prophecy and she didn't want anybody to hurt her baby. So she went around to every plant and animal in the world and made them all swear fealty. She even went to things that were inanimate, like rocks and water and things like that. And she said, swear that you will never hurt my son. So all of these things swore fealty to her that they wouldn't hurt him. So when her son Balder was born, he would go around and, like, there could be bugs biting everybody else, like mosquitoes and things like that. Well, they wouldn't touch him. If he fell down, all the leaves would gather underneath him and he'd land on a cushion. If he fell in the river, the water would part and his mother could walk out there and pick him up and he wouldn't drown. So he went his entire life without any pain of any kind or anything like that. And on top of that, he was breathtakingly beautiful because his mother is the goddess of beauty and spring and renewal of life. And so he was absolutely gorgeous, which meant all the women loved him. And so the men would play this game where they would try to throw stuff at Balder and they would try to, like, hurt him because they knew they couldn't. So, what are weapons made out of? They're made from rocks. Rocks have been turned into metal. Metal has sworn that it will never hurt Balder. So what would happen is he'd walk into a room and somebody would, like, chuck an axe at him, and at the very last minute it would veer off to the side and he'd never get hit. So it was kind of a running joke to, like, try to hurt Balder because you knew you never could. Well, Loki got jealous because of all the attention he was getting and because all the women liked him so much. So Loki went on a quest to find out, how can I hurt Balder? Because he was just mad, and Loki gets into trouble all the time. Well, it turns out that he found mistletoe, this little clump in the tree. And he looked at mistletoe and he thought, well, that can't hurt somebody. I mean, even if you throw it at somebody, it's just going to sort of blob off of them. It's like you can't really hurt anybody with that, is what he was thinking at the time. So he asked mistletoe, did she talk to you? And mistletoe was sad and said, no, she didn't talk to me. So what happened was he took mistletoe and he used magic to turn it into a dart. So it was basically like a crossbow bolt almost, but a little bit longer. And then he took that back to where all of the gods were. Now, Balder's brother was the blind god of justice. He was born with no sight, and his whole purpose in life was to have this bow and arrow. So you would hand him the arrow and he would put it in his bow, and he would ask you a question, like whatever question you wanted to know the answer to. And so he would ask you a question and he would pull the arrow back. And remember, he can't see, so it's not like he can point it at you, right? And so he would pull it back and he would ask you the question and you would answer, and then he would release the arrow. And if what you said was true, the arrow would miss you. If what you said was not the truth, even if you believe it yourself, but it's not the truth, that arrow would go right through your heart and kill you instantly. So people had to think long and hard before offering this opportunity to the blind god of justice. So Loki comes in, all the guys are laughing, people are chucking stuff at Balder, nothing's hitting him. And Loki starts to joke around and say, I can hurt you. I bet I can. I bet I can. And they're like, shush up. No, you can't. Well, he goes, let's try. So he puts Balder in front of the blind god of justice, and Loki hands this magical bolt made out of mistletoe to Balder's brother. So the blind god of justice pulls the arrow back and he asks Balder, is there anything in this world that can hurt you? And Balder's very, sort of arrogant about it. He goes, of course not. And he releases the bolt and it slams right through his heart. And remember, this is the first time he's ever experienced pain. So he's totally shocked and he falls down to the ground and he's dying. And now everybody's screaming and crying. They don't understand. How did this happen? This isn't supposed to be possible. Oh no, the prophecy. So all of a sudden it becomes very quiet. And here comes Loki's, his aunt. So, like, here comes Balder's mother. And so Freya looks down at her son and she's horrified because this is her greatest fear. And she starts to cry, and her tears are like Fox in Harry Potter. They have magical ability to cure things. And so she's crying, and the wound is starting to heal, and then it's opening back up again, and it's just not working. So she decides that she has to use her strongest power. So she pulls the arrow out of her son, and she leans down, and she's holding the mistletoe arrow over their heads. She leans down and she kisses him on the forehead. And so that's where you get the idea of kissing under the mistletoe. And her kiss has the ability to bring things back from the dead. At the end of winter, she kisses the ground, and spring comes, the world reawakens. So this is her strongest power. So she actually brings her son back to life. And at that time, they're greatly relieved and everything. He's healed. But then the god of the underworld comes and he says, no, 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 no. He's mine. This is the prophecy. He's died. Even though you've brought him back, he still belongs to me. So until the end of the world, Balder is living in the underworld, with the god of the underworld until it's time for Ragnarok, when they'll come back and fight. That's a whole different movie. But when you kiss people under the mistletoe, like you see in this tree right here, you're actually reenacting and reaffirming this love of a mother for her son, of a partner for a partner, your love for nature, your love for the earth, your love of life. So that's what mistletoe actually represents. And I think it's wonderful that when you come to Coyote Valley, it's right here in the parking lot. So when you come, you can think about that, and think about how much, loving nature and loving life and loving yourself too is very important. These are the kind of views that you'll see when you're out here. You can see, how beautiful it gets in the wintertime and early spring when it's so green. And we have these meandering trails, and they're new trails, so they're not too steep, and you can take your time and enjoy them. And when you come out there, these are some people that work there. So we have docents here and volunteers, and you can see, look how happy they are. They come out and they're just so happy. And what I like about this agency is that everybody's really friendly. So you can come out, and people will be there to help you experience things and to point stuff out that you could look at and enjoy. And pretty soon, you'll have a smile on your face too. One of the other things that happens here is that we sometimes do plein air. So I didn't know what plein air meant. I'm like, plein what? And they said, oh, it's painting outside. I'm like, oh, okay. So you can also come to the park and you can bring paints if you want. And once COVID's done and we can go back out, we can have plein air out there where we bring all the paints and stuff for you. But I do encourage you to give it a try. Even if you're like me and you do little stick trees and stick people, it's okay. Just enjoy yourself, because what you're doing is you're giving yourself permission to relax and really see what's around you. And it's a very fun little, exercise, even if you're sketching outside. It's a lot of fun, so I highly recommend it. And you can look here and see that in the springtime, we get these beautiful flowers. Beautiful. And the hillsides will get covered with so many poppies that we can be all the way across the valley and we can see the orange in the springtime. That's how beautiful it can get. And then up in the hills here that you're seeing, we actually have a den up there, and there are coyotes that live up there. So they help us keep the squirrel population down, and they're part of our environment that helps us too. And I used to think, oh no, everything's gonna turn yellow. You can see the grass is starting to turn here, and this would be late spring. And I actually found out from one of our ranchers that when the grass turns like this, it's actually pushing all the sugar up into what looks like dead grass. And so it's actually, even though it's dry and crunchy, it's actually more nutritious for the cows to eat this. So that sort of made me feel better about everything turning, brown, is that it's actually like, it's a very nutritious meal for the cattle that are out here. And so they do like green stuff too, but they get more nutrition from this dry grass. So even something that could look like, ah, gee, that's not so great, could actually have nutritional value. And you can see how it looks in the springtime and get this view. But let's pull back for a minute. If we pulled up into the sky, this is actually drone footage. I didn't realize they could get this high. Quite impressed. But this is the whole, of Coyote Valley. And if you look down, you can see Calero Reservoir, you can see Bailey Road, and you can see Highway 101 and Monterey Highway. You can even see that little plume of clouds down there is actually the Metcalf Energy Plant. And just above that, you can see a big lake. So that's Laguna Seca, which means dry lake in Spanish, and it's been called that for hundreds of years, and was part of a Mexican land grant. So what would happen if we were all the way on the other side of the valley from where we just were? We could see all of these things, because out here we have all this agriculture and we have all this wildlife, and there are a couple ways, that people can experience stress. And one of those ways is you could be like the turtle here, and he's under the water, he's just chilling out. He's not aware of any of the drama that's going on up here. And so some folks do that. They just pull into themselves and give themselves permission to relax and to tune out. Some folks tune out of Facebook or different things like that, turn the TV off, give themselves a mental break during this time, an emotional break. And then there's other folks like this little guy in the corner. Can you guess? I'll give you a hint. Meep, meep. This is a road runner. And we actually do have road runners here in Santa Clara Valley. And so some folks deal with stress that way. They run around really fast, and that's okay. That's what our trails are for. So you can come out and walk really fast. And if you start to get stressed and you feel that energy inside you, you can come over to our preserves and go for a walk. And if you want, you can run, like whatever it is you want to do. And that'll help you like let go of some of that energy that's making you anxious. And we have locations like that are also very good for people with disabilities. So if you want to come out to one of the preserves, feel free to shoot us an email or give us a call. The office phone number is 408-224-7476. And you can say, hey, I'm thinking of coming out this weekend. I want to go to Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve, and I want to make sure there's a parking space for my ADA accessible van. And we will make sure that something's there when you get there. So we have a paved loop trail at Rancho Cañada del Oro, and we have nice flat trails at Coyote Valley that you can check out and things like that. So even if you're not completely like in a wheelchair, we have areas that are good for walkers, or if you're recovering from an illness, or you're just been really sedentary and you want to go easy, we have lots of trails for that. So don't feel like you have to be a super hiker, to come visit. This is actually one of my favorite preserves, is Rancho Cañada del Oro Open Space Preserve. Look at this fog. So this preserve has so much beauty, rolling hills, lots of different habitats and things like that. And that's part of why I like it, is every time I go here, it looks different. And in the springtime, we have these beautiful oak trees. This is a valley oak next to what looks like a coast live oak. And so they leaf out, in the springtime, and we have all these butterflies up here and things like that. And this tree was interesting because this tree actually had a beehive in it. And the reason I bring that up is that one of the things that bees will do is they can make their home inside a tree like this. And in the winter months, if it's cold, what they do is they all get in there and they move around really fast. And it actually helps to increase the temperature so that they can stay comfortably warm and safe. But in the summertime, when it's hot, they actually go and stand in the doorway and flap their wings really fast. And that actually circulates the air so that they don't get too hot, and that the honeycomb doesn't melt and things like that. So one way that we can get through all of the stress is by helping each other and thinking about the bees and how they do that. They work together as a team to keep each other warm and to keep each other cool. And so that's something that we could do too. And then I was kind of giggling because in the corner down there, you could see a little tiny cow making a break for it. So you could see the little cow trail. So as you walk, especially if you take the Mayfair Trail, you can actually come around the hill to a riparian area. Like, what does riparian mean? It means creekside. So you can find a creek on the backside of the hill if you go up the Mayfair Trail and down around the back. And so, being around water, I think helps us a lot too. It's very soothing to listen to. And the reason I put frogs here is because this is one of the first places I found tree frogs when I came to work here. And tree frogs are funny because a lot of times if they hear a man talking, they'll start ribbiting also because they think it's competition. So you can go and check that out. And then we also have, water. So you can use water as a means to help calm you. The sound of water, like, will start to calm you down and help you take deep breaths. You can enjoy it. It blocks out background noise. And if you're really, really stressed, get close to the water, touch the moss, and you can even put your feet in the water if you really need to, and you feel like, oh, I just want that connection. You can do that. You can enjoy the water that way, and it will help you to feel calm. And then the other thing that's really fun about Rancho Cañada del Oro is that in the springtime, there are a lot of butterflies. So you can go there and check out all these different kinds of butterflies. And right now, even though it's fall, there's quite a few little ones called skippers where their wings look a little bit different pattern. They look like they're kind of more folded up. But we have a lot of skippers, jumping around right now to the different flowers that are there. But who's that little guy in the lower right-hand corner? He doesn't belong. Not at this location, but he does belong. That's foreshadowing for the future. He does belong on one of our other properties. And every time you go up here, you'll get some amazing views. So give yourself permission to do that. Give yourself permission to enjoy these things. And this tree is a grandmother tree, and she's worked really hard her whole life, and she's just leaning down, kind of putting her head on her shoulder, on her hand like this. Shoo, right? Beautiful, beautiful trees. But across the valley is Coyote Ridge Open Space Preserve. So we actually took this picture during a meditation exercise up on top of the hill. Coyote Ridge is a very special place. So this is on the east side of 101. So, and you can see El Toro in the distance there, and you can see the Lakeway Parkways. I'm going to forget what that's called, but the parks that have water and things like that. And the neat thing about Coyote Ridge is that every year for about 6 weeks, it explodes with wildflowers. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I thought they were kidding. For years, I heard about this and I thought, what? First off, I heard ridge and I thought, I'm not walking up on some ridge. That is like, sounds like a really hard hike. Well, actually, what we do is we open these preserves in the springtime so that you can come in and you can walk at your own pace. So if it takes you all day to just take your time and meander up the hill, you can do that. And we also have programs and beautiful flowers that are down below. So if you don't want to go up really high, you don't have to. But you really can see this kind of flower, this amount of flowers. It's kind of like Wizard of the Oz with little flowers, if you think of it that way. Yeah. And my favorite is like lupin. Love lupin. And lupin is wonderful because it actually pulls nitrogen out of the atmosphere and out of the air. And nitrogen is one of those parts of the greenhouse gases that could be hurtful for us and cause, climate change and things like that. And so this is right south of San Jose. So all that air pollution comes from San Jose, comes up on the hillside here and gets absorbed by these plants that then trap it down in the soil. So in the old days, the farmers would plant this in the fields, and right before the flowers go to seed, they would rototill it, and it would actually be a way to catch fertilizer without having to put fertilizer in the soil. You let the plants do it for you. But nowadays, we're learning different styles of farming and different ways of being less disruptive to the soil. But we get the benefit of seeing these beautiful blue and purple flowers, all over the hillsides when we come to Coyote Ridge. There's so many different kinds, just fields of poppies, beautiful poppies, and we have purple owl's clover. And they say that if you get really close to this purple owl's clover, that it looks like a little tiny owl. I don't see it. But that's okay. I have more respect for other people's sense of creativity, so that's totally okay. But this little guy down on the bottom, this is not to scale. So this is dwarf plantain. And that is the most important plant on this entire hillside because we have something very beautiful. When you see them, they're about the size of like little Q-tips. They kind of look like that. I used to jokingly call them Q-tips until I found out there was another flower that is called Q-tip. So I'm like, oh, dwarf plantain. This is who it supports. So this is a bay checker spot butterfly, and they spend their entire life on this hill. We don't even see them during the dry months because they're kind of dormant, and they're caterpillars for most of their life. And this guy's hanging out on this flower. And if you look at them, I mean, look at their antenna. Their antenna look like they're black and white striped with little orange tips. And they have this beautiful fuzzy black body. And then they have this checkered pattern all over their wings that is white and orange and black. And you'll notice there's no yellow. So if you see yellow, it's a different kind of checker spot, not a bay checker spot. But what's wonderful about these is they are really endangered. And so on this ridge, you can come on these hikes. And when they wake up in the morning and they take to the air, they sort of flutter all together and they look like they're made out of stained glass. They're absolutely gorgeous. So part of what we do at Open Space is take care of the land to protect these butterflies also, and to try to help the populations to recover. So sometimes when I get stressed out, what I do is I think about these beautiful little things. And in my mind, I call it snapshot. So I'll go out in the yard or I'll go for a walk in the neighborhood, and I'll take deep breaths and I'll just walk slowly, so that I can like feel calm and relaxed. And I deliberately look for tiny things that I find beautiful. And when I see them, I spend some time and I just take a deep breath and I let my eyes relax and I soak up all the detail about these things. And so part of what I do is I describe it like I just did. I describe it to myself. Like, what am I seeing? What do I wonder about this? What do I notice about this? So you do that, and then I'll say to myself, click, like I took a picture. And then at the end of the day, what you do is as you're going to sleep, you remember the beautiful things that you saw. So the last thoughts that you have right before you go to sleep is a memory of beauty that you chose, that you saw during the day. And this is a picture of what happens to people when they come out to Coyote Ridge. So this woman works in Silicon Valley. She was really stressed. This from a couple of years ago. She was really stressed, and she sat down on a rock, and I was up there, everybody's eating their lunch and everything, and I've got my peanut butter and jelly, and I turn around and I see this, and I'm like, I can't help it, I have to take a picture. So I took a picture because she was just so happy to be out in the sunshine among the butterflies and the color and the flowers. And so remember that vitamin D is also very important to your mental health. It helps adjust your mood. It also helps with the uptake of vitamin C. Not vitamin C, but calcium and vitamin D are closely linked to each other. And calcium helps you with your digestion. So sometimes some of your bad mood could just be from poor digestion. So going outside and soaking up the sun a little bit each day will definitely help you. Ooh, and people find beauty in their memories also. And one year I was up on the ridge and it was kind of the end of the season. A lot of the flowers had died, and I had a tour group with me. And I looked over and I saw this woman and she was kind of like weeping. And I thought, oh no, she's so disappointed that she didn't get to see what she was hoping for. I wonder what's wrong. And I was really worried. And I went over to her and I'm like, are you okay? Are you okay? And she was kind of like smiling and crying at the same time. And she said, that's a meadowlark. And I was like, what? And she goes, "That's a meadowlark. I haven't heard that since I was a child." And so for her, she was bringing back all these wonderful memories of her childhood, and it all came to her from this sound. So I wanted you to hear what the sound is like. Beautiful. And we have those all over the hillside. But remember that a memory can help you too. So think about the things from your past that you remember that made you happy. And I recommend listening to music. Um, Even finding your old TV shows you watched as a kid, you'll get a kick out of the hairdos and the clothing. Find those on YouTube and watch some of those and show those to your friends and your kids and everything too. And like, look at what we used to watch. I used to watch the Monkees and like sing along to the tunes. Oh, and then also on top of the ridge are these critters. Check out these guys. What are they doing? Right? So one of these things is not like the other. So on the one hand, we have these guys, cows. So you can see the cows out here, right? But there are also other kinds of cows. So if you notice out here, these are all cows. Oh, by the way, if you see cows, don't moo at them. Okay, they actually moo when they're feeling distressed. And these cows were not distressed. I just put this sound in here so you could hear it. But when they get frightened or they get worried or they're trying to find their baby or something like that, they start mooing. So when we see them, it's only natural to want to go moo and like see what they do, but don't do it. Don't do it. Just try to restrain. You can do it very quietly in your own head. So the other cows that are out here are actually tule elk. Who knew we had elk in San Jose? Isn't that cool? And if you look, all of these are cows except for the guy with the antlers. So that's the male. And he has to keep track of all of these women because they're all part of his herd. And so he's the strongest, fastest, toughest elk, which means that he'll probably create the strongest babies. And that's why he keeps this harem for himself to try to have as many babies as he possibly can. But you see this big animal and you think they're going to have like this boo sound, right? Check this out. You can see what they actually sound like. I feel like that sometimes. So if you feel frustrated and stuff at life, you just imagine he's up there chasing all of these females around, trying to keep the boys away from his wives and things like that. So just imagine that. And that's just funny that he has such a high pitched sound, but it works. It keeps the other guys away. So further north is the Sierra Vista Open Space Preserve. And so this one does have some steep trails and it has like 13 miles of trails. And we're actually currently building like more. I was looking down at this little rock here and thought for a moment that was a bobcat. I was like, oh, I don't think so. That's okay. It's okay. That's your skills of observation. So check out these views. Beautiful rolling hills, all these grasses, and when the wind blows, you can see them move. It's like what's those, amber waves of grain idea. And everywhere you look is different and beautiful. And this is like back into the back part. So if you see Alum Rock Park, if you're ever in Alum Rock Park and you look up and you see little tiny white trucks, that's us. That's us. So one of the ways that people relax is through wildlife photography and landscape photography. So I zoomed in on one of our docent Jennifer's photographs here. It was actually a lot bigger, but I zoomed in on this one part because this is the path up to these old waterfalls that used to be there in Allen Rock Park. And in the old days, they didn't have the same rules, for building trails. So the trails have since washed out like several times, and that's why that area is off limits. But you could see it from above, like on our properties. And keep in mind, all of these things that are happening, the world continues, nature continues. And if you look down here at the bottom, you see these rocks. Some of these rocks were on this hillside when this hillside was at the bottom of an ocean. So it actually got lifted up over thousands and thousands and millions of years. It got lifted up and became the top of the hill. But at one time, it was actually in the ocean. So when you look at rocks like this, you can actually find seashells in there. And if you see this tree, you're like, oh no, the tree's dead. Well, actually, yeah, it did live its life and it passed. But the thing is, it's now habitat for birds and animals. And it's a home that continues to provide life, for the rest of the community. So keep that in mind, that just because something's gone doesn't mean it's gone. This is a view that you can see little tiny, James Lick Observatory up on top of the hill. This is definitely a telephoto zoom. But you can see this from the top of the hill there. So sometimes when it gets really cold and you hear about snow on Mount Hamilton and you try to go up there and they've cut off the road, they said, no, you can't come up. You can actually see this from Sierra Vista, from our parking lot. So you can come up and go for a walk, up there and get a look at the view and see where the snow is and get a little bit closer. And then this reminds me of Brigadoon. It's like Brigadoon. Every morning, and it always looks different. And sometimes you go up there and there's just fog, and you can wait and you can stand there and watch the sunrise. And it's a very refreshing way, to experience this. So we may be doing more programs in the future where we have sunrise viewings and things like that once we can start to open things back up again. But so this is a view of like what nature does, and there's me social distancing 6 feet apart. So if you notice, like, everybody's smiling, everybody's happy, being outside can do this for you. And we have somebody that's at one of the plein air events there, and we have Richard from Saved by Nature's doing Tai Chi and Qigong, like outside with the folks from Morning Crane. And then you can see, just showing other people the stuff that you love. Like, he caught a crawdad, and this kid's like never seen a crawdad before. So being able to show other people the places you went to as a kid is another way to like help you feel better and feel calmer. And so at open space, you can go for hikes, you can ride mountain bikes, you can also bring horses. So we always try to have that available for every preserve so that everybody gets a chance to be out. And folks just get a real kick out of it. And down here in the bottom, if you don't have the tools to like do painting, like watercolor and things, or you're like me and you feel a little nervous about your abilities, you can finger paint. That's totally what we did, is we finger painted there, and we just had fun. It's very tactile. You're going to get messy, but you can finger paint outside too. And it just makes you laugh. It'll take you back to being a kid. And don't forget that up on top of Sierra Vista, they have these beautiful sunsets. And here's a couple, and they're just enjoying the sunset. And don't forget that in these times, we really are here for you. And if you have ideas for things that you need, please feel free to let us know. And most of all, give yourself a chance to enjoy these things, and give yourself a chance to feel calm. Give yourself a chance to go outside, especially if you're somebody who's home taking care of everybody else. Please remember that you deserve a chance to take a break too. And if you can, find a way to get some time alone, walking on our trails or enjoying the view, or just having a few moments to yourself, because nature is here for you, and nature is big enough to handle anything that you have, anything you have going on in your heart or your head. It's here for you. So just remember that, and remember to ask for help if you need it. This program is brought to you by the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority. My name is Teri Roggaway, and if you have any questions or need any ideas or suggestions, feel free to email me at ROGOWAY at openspaceauthority.org. And I will get back to you and would be more than glad to hear from you. Thank you for joining us today. Please be well.